We've got a basic announcements list here, and when we have 20, 30, 40 announcements in it, we want to get rid of them, but we don't want to delete them. We don't want them gone. We just want them elsewhere. So we really want an announcements archive and to have the ability for someone to go in and to say, I'd like to move this item from one location to another. So we created another announcements list that's simply called Old Announcements, and now we're going to add a workflow to the announcements list to allow a user to move an item to the Old Announcements list. Let's go to SharePoint Designer, click Workflows, and add a list workflow to the announcements list. And this is going to be Move to Archive. Move the current item to the Old Announcements archive. You might think, why can't we just drag and drop? And the reason is drag and drop is turned off for many folks, and it's difficult to just move things between libraries. So let's see how we're going to do this here. This is actually a two-step process. We can call the whole thing Move to Old Announcements. And when we go take a look at our list actions, you'll notice that there is no move item here at all. That's because move is actually first a copy, then a delete. So we're going to copy this list item to Old Announcements. Then we're going to take advantage of one of our core actions, which is to pause for a duration. We're going to wait a few minutes to make sure that it gets there, and then we're going to delete the current item. So a move is a copy followed by a delete. Let's start with the copy. Copy the current item to, notice that Old Announcements isn't here, so we're going to go up and we're going to refresh. When you're moving pretty quickly with SharePoint, this isn't all that unusual. To this list, there's Old Announcements. So we're going to copy the current item to Old Announcements. That's step one. The second action in this step is actually to pause. So we're going to pause for a duration. 0 days, 0 hours, 5 minutes is actually sufficient. If you were concerned, if you were in a situation where you had SharePoint hosted somewhere else and you thought, it seems to me it sometimes takes longer than that, well, crank it up to 10 minutes. Doesn't really matter, but 5's usually good enough. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our third action, which is on our list actions list, which is delete item. Delete the current item. So copy the item to Old Announcements, wait for 10 minutes, delete the item. That's our entire workflow. Works for me. Let's go ahead and save it. And now let's go back out to its settings. This is a workflow that is manually started. This is a great example of a workflow that we don't want to have start automatically. We don't want it to, as soon as you drop a new item in, let's move it and delete it. Although there are times you will want to do that, this isn't one of them. So let's go ahead and publish it. And now let's go back to our library, and we want to go ahead and take this announcement, and we'd like to archive it. So I'm going to choose Workflows. Move to Archive, Start. Notice that this is in progress right now. If we slide over here to Old Announcements, we'll actually find that the copy part of this was done pretty quickly. And so for this 10-minute interval, this item exists in both places. When the 10 minutes are up, if we come back here to the announcements list, we'll find that Move to Archive has completed and that this item is gone. This raises the issue of whether we actually want Move to Archive to show here. If we were doing a lot of archiving, we might, because that way someone can actually tell, yep, I did it right, it's already started. But it also takes up space. It might be that if you wanted to show this, you would actually create a library view that was archiving, or a library view that was utilities that showed these columns for this kind of cleanup or utility-based workflow that you might want to create. But two new list actions, copy, delete, and a reuse of our pause, get us a nice move from one library to another.